Crescent Dragonwagon, and I'm the author of the Cornbread Gospels, which, here's how it looks in paper, but you, darlings, get to have it at a super cheapo price on Workman's Blue Plate Special this month. It's the Cornbread Gospels with an S, because there are many, many different types of cornbread, and whichever way you grew up with is the way that you think God meant cornbread to be. And this is a little introduction by way of 3 different cornbreads. We're going to have a video one week about Southern cornbread, which is probably my very favorite, African American cornbread, which is kind of a runner-up for my very favorite, and Yankee cornbread. I am Yankee born, but Southern bred. I grew up in the South, so I have some connection to all 3 of those. 3, because there was a great migration of American black people from South to North, and they kind of combined some of the best features of Southern and Northern cornbread. So we're going to find out in these 3 separate videos, plus this introduction, about what those differences are. Now, in 2 of the 3 videos that we're going to have, I'm going to sing for you some cornbread-related songs. And one was written by me, one by my friend Bill Haynes. And they are related to Southern and Northern cornbread, specifically. And I don't have a particularly good voice, but I'm not in the least self-conscious about it. So lean back. We'll go into the kitchen to actually sing and make some cornbreads. Then get into your own kitchen, get your books, start cooking cornbread. Your life will change in a small but significant and delicious way. And you will be invited back to every party that you ever offer to bring the cornbread to. Thanks! See you in the kitchen! Hello again, cornbread lovers, which is probably 99.999% of the people in the world. We are back with our 3rd wonderful cornbread we're going to sample this month out of the Cornbread Gospels. This is Dairy Hollow House Skillet-Sizzled Buttermilk Cornbread. This was the signature cornbread at Dairy Hollow House, which was a country inn that I owned with my late husband, back in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, for 18 years. But though it was an Ozark Mountain locale, this is actually a Deep South African-American cornbread taught to me by a woman named Viola in 1969 in Brooklyn. Every bite of food we eat tells a story, and none more so than cornbread in general, and specifically African-American cornbread. We've seen the Southern cornbread, all cornmeal, no flour, no sugar, very plain, with that wonderful outside crust from the hot skillet. We've seen, and hopefully you guys have made and tasted, the Yankee cornbread, sweet, a little more cakey, very tender, golden brown. With the great diaspora of black African Americans moving from the South to the North, they took their foodways with them, the Southern foodways, and they mixed them with the Yankee ones. So to my mind, this cornbread is probably the very best. It pulls the best of both worlds. It is baked in a skillet, so you get that great hot, crunchy outside crust. It's a little sweet, but it's not so overpoweringly sweet that a Southerner would turn up his or her nose at it. It uses the buttermilk of the South. Why buttermilk? Less easy refrigeration, a lot more cultured milk products in the South than in the North, where they could cut the big blocks of ice and have the ice house. Okay, so equal parts stone ground cornmeal, unbleached white flour. Some African American cornbreads might have heavier percentage of cornmeal to flour, but one Viola told me has equal. And it has, I have in here salt, baking powder, which is the leavening that they use in the North, plus baking soda, which you use in the South. You need the soda to combat the acidity of the buttermilk. So I'll pour that in. So we have our dry ingredients here. Now our wet ingredients are, I'm turning up my skillet behind my shoulder so it gets nice and sizzly hot when we pour the batter in. Our wet ingredients are the buttermilk, a little bit of oil. Viola probably originally used melted bacon fat. I'm a vegetarian, I use oil. And a beaten egg. So I'm mixing all those wet ingredients together. I'll tell you, if I had $1 for every time I made this cornbread at the end, I would be a wealthy woman. And I'm adding a little bit of sugar, about 2 tablespoons. Not as much as Yankee cornbread, but way, 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 way more than you use in the South. And here's our batter that we're putting together here. Once again, you don't want to be able to see too many patches of flour, but you don't want it overbeaten. You want it to be lumpy. You don't want it smooth. Till smooth and free of lumps, the way we would like to come out in life, but rarely do. Better to mix until combined, but still lumpy. Okay, so there's our batter. And, oh, this is the buttermilk I put in. I'm going to turn over here. I'm baking this off, by the way, in a Lodge skillet. They're manufactured in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, where the National Cornbread Festival is held. Here it is, very awkward to hold, skillet very hot. I'm setting it down here, and you're going to hear a nice sizzle when we pour this batter in. Good on us. Many are the nights I did this at the inn. And although many things can be prepped in advance and be good, cornbread is not really one of them. So I made cornbread all throughout the evenings when I was serving at the inn. Okay, I'm going to turn around and stick it in the oven. And there we are. You can see the little fat around the edge. That's going to make such a nice crispy edge. Into the oven it goes, and in case I didn't make it clear, that was a few tablespoons of butter melted till it was just on the edge of browning in a very, very hot skillet. So that's going to bake about 20 minutes, and we will have our Southern African-American Dairy Hollow House Skillet-Sizzled buttermilk cornbread, and we will be happy eaters when we have it. See you soon. All right, now I'm going to pull the Dairy Hollow House Skillet-Sizzled cornbread out of the oven. Many are the times that I did this at the inn, knowing guests were waiting, having eaten their way through 8 or 10 skillets, and I was throwing another together during the dinner rush. Here we go. The beautiful Dairy Hollow House Skillet-Sizzled cornbread. Thank you, Viola. Thank you, African Americans, for combining the best of the Southern and the best of the Northern so that all of us can eat and hopefully bring out the best of all of us. So, over here we have the Truman Capote's family strictly Southern style cornbread, the Dairy Hollow House Skillet-Sizzled cornbread, African American style, the Yankee Vermont style maple sweetened cornbread. So, here we are after some goings-on in the kitchen this morning with 3 kinds of cornbread, and just as a little bonus, something to go with them. Here is our Truman Capote's family-style Southern cornbread. Gritty, a little dry because it's supposed to be crumbled into soup and such. Very strong corn flavor, very plain in a really pleasing way. Here is the Dairy Hollow House Skillet-Sizzled. I'll hold it up so you can see that very cool, wonderful, crunchy crust that you've got. We got the same thing on the Truman Capote's, but there's a little more butter in the Dairy Hollow, and rockin'. Not too sweet, a little more tender than the Truman Capote's. That's the African American style one. Really wonderful. I think my favorite. And here is the Vermont maple sweetened one. Crunchy, sweet, wonderful. a little more bready than cornbready. This was the kind that I grew up on before I moved to the South, and if you are a New Englander, it would be perfect for you. If you were a Southerner, you might be ambivalent about it. To my taste, I think the Dairy Hollow that I made all those years still rocks for me. But whatever kind of cornbread you make, and whether you get it as a book or an ebook like we're offering this month at this great Blue Plate special price, what you really want to have is something that goes with it. So I'm just going to add a taste, if we can lift it out here. This is my Southern New South style black-eyed pea soup with sweet potatoes and kale. It's a little bit spicy. It's absolutely wonderful. Sorry, not kale, collard greens from my own garden, my own Vermont garden out here. And this, to me, not only would it be, it's going to be my lunch with that Dairy Hollow cornbread, and that is out of Bean by Bean, because beans and cornbread go together like peace and love, and like you and me, babe. See you another time. Thank you.